So I'm going to be really honest. I actually rewrote this entire thing last night and some this morning and some on the walk here and a little during the last talk because I wanted to do exactly what Lee talked about. I wanted to hide. I wanted to protect my body, myself, my story from your words, from your thoughts, from words, pity, pain. I wanted to somehow separate myself from my story, well, so that it could no longer be used against me. Because I'm getting really freaking tired of that. Okay, so my story is I am a survivor of domestic violence and sexual assault. These are words you don't hear in your church, right? How would you feel if your pastor got up, which I am, and said, hey, let me tell you what happened to me between the ages of 19 and 22. Let me tell you about the time couldn't even say that I had been raped because it was my husband. And I grew up in a church where I was supposed to stay married because that's what the church taught me. I was supposed to dress a certain way so that these things wouldn't happen. I was taught to not make another man stumble. What happens when that happens to you on a daily basis? Well, eventually you blame yourself. You think you caused that person to stumble, and therefore your body is the problem. And as a pastor, I wish I could say that I somehow feel like my body is super comfortable and I'm happy to be the incarnate word. You know, that's just not true. So, let me go through how I got ready this morning, the thought process I had. And some of you female clergy are going to understand this. I knew I wanted to look strong and feel powerful, so I wore my fierce red. But I also thought, but red's considered slutty, right? I said that. I did. Did you all hear it? And it's okay. Nobody died. It's real. Words matter. So then I put on my clothes, and I thought, I feel pretty. But do I feel too pretty? I'm going to walk here. Do I look too sexy to walk down New Orleans streets? I'm a woman, so I need to walk with a group. How do I make sure I have a group? What I do if someone catcalls, what do I say to that? And then I'm going to go talk about the fact that I have a body. When I don't know what that means every day. When that's still something I negotiate. How many female pastors go through these same thoughts every Sunday morning? What do I wear? Sometimes I'm like, maybe I should just go to a clergy collar, but I feel like I'm being choked to death by the love of Jesus Christ. So, and that's not what I want. And so that's not me. And I don't have to apologize for that. I don't have to apologize that I have a female body and I like to wear pretty clothes. But I feel like I'm supposed to because I was taught that, well, it's my fault. It's my body, my words. And words have been wielded against me as a survivor of sexual assault. Often. From my places like boards of ordained ministry, from church members, all thankfully not the one that I serve in now. I've never had to do with the women, the defensive hug. I don't even have to do it where I'm at. It's amazing. I don't know how they learned it, but they're good. These are things that I think about every day, and as a survivor of sexual assault, I probably think about them more than most people. See, I'm one in that 1 in 4, although statistically I come across as more like 1 in 3. Fun fact, 1 in 3 marriages has domestic violence. That's true in our churches. 1 in 3 of those have a component of sexual assault. That's 1 in 6 people in your church is being sexually assaulted on a regular basis. This matters. We know that GC20, who knows about GC 2019? Raise your hand. Oh yeah. Can you get a group of Methodists together right now and talk about anything without it going to, so what do you think is going to happen in February? Right? We've been talking about the human sexuality debate. But we keep that down to this one small part of human sexuality and human sexual experience, right? And as a survivor of domestic violence and specifically sexual assault, My experience with my sexuality, to have someone constantly say we're having this human sexuality debate, but nobody talks about justice, it doesn't feel like just one people group is incompatible. Somehow now I'm incompatible, and you're incompatible, and they're incompatible with Christian teaching. And not having grace, well, I'm sorry, but that's incompatible with Christian teaching. Because of the language of the Book of Discipline, because of how the paragraph 161G, which is entitled Human Sexuality, never mentions protecting our sexuality. That comes only 2 paragraphs later. Only, right? I didn't feel like I could tell anyone. This was something I kept really quiet, just like Lee said. This is not a prayer request I would have put in seminary when I was dealing with the fact that rape happened to me. God, I hate that word, speaking of words. It sounds exactly like what is happening. Being ripped open, the most vulnerable parts of yourselves being shattered. So many people in our pews, in our pulpits, in our leadership teams, on our staffs, have these stories. They have had words thrown at them that hurt. They've been called whore. They've been asked if they send mixed signals. They've been asked what they're wearing, as if that has any boundary on anything. But words can also heal. Words have if we believe Jesus is the Word, and the Word came to resurrect, restore, and to make new, then our words can do that also, and should do that. If your words are not doing that, if your words are doing harm, you are not speaking the truth of the gospel. There's no way to get around that. So what words do you need to know? Well, you probably don't know this because we've been talking about human sexuality for the last 30 years and battling over it. In that time period, our process for holding a clergy or a church member accountable in that same Book of Discipline has gotten worse for victims and not better. I'm going to say that again. In the time that we've been talking about human sexuality, our way of holding people accountable for justice, for women's bodies, has gotten worse and not better. We're not debating over human sexuality. We are debating about one issue, and until we decide that we are going to talk about a lot of issues when it comes to human sexuality, we're doing harm. So how do we change this? Well, with our words. We can write words like legislation. You can write words that are your name to sign that legislation as a person and as a United Methodist member. You can encourage with your words someone to speak out when they're ready. You can also, with your words, tell them they don't need to give their words if they're not ready to share their words. You hear their words. You believe their words. You don't doubt. The first word out of your mouth should be, aren't you sure? It should be, I am so sorry. I remember I was sexually assaulted in a internship at a church by the senior pastor. And I tried to tell people about it, and my words were not heard when they mattered most. And that already happens in sexual assault. Someone ignores your words of no. But I heard a lot of other words. I heard the word reconciliation and forgiveness. So many times I wanted to cry. They lost all meaning. I still have to tell myself that reconciliation is a good thing. That it doesn't mean I have to lay my own body aside so that someone else doesn't look bad, or I'm not disrupting their family or spreading a rumor that could destroy someone's career, as if his career is more important than my sexuality, than my personhood, than my psyche. This is what we say when we say these words to people. I have a friend, Sally. She went to college, and she was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, believing that the world was a beautiful place. And she started dating this guy. He was the worship leader at her Wesley Foundation, and he raped her. She believed it was her fault. Everyone assumed that this was going to be not just a minister, but he was going to be like the one to watch the rising star. Twist of fate, she's now the pastor in the world. She's the one that was set apart and is, in my opinion, the one to watch. Why? Because she seeks justice. An interesting thing happens when you talk about sexual assault. When you first say, I'm a survivor or I'm a victim, usually I'm met with, I'm so sorry. But the moment I start to name a name or call for justice, that's when I've stepped too far. Don't do that. Use your words to heal, to make new, to restore. Give them back their words. And use your words to join their voices to fight for justice. To fight so that another body doesn't have to be broken, because we serve a God whose body was broken so that ours wouldn't have to be.